What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Screen Kings. My name is Christian, and today I am going to be reviewing for you guys the new 28 years later film, The Bone Temple. Is it any good? Let's dive in, y'all. But before I share my thoughts, I want to give you guys a brief synopsis of the film from Google, which says 28 years later, The Bone Temple expands on the story from 28 years later, following Spike's terrifying encounter with cult leader Jimmy Crystal and Dr. Kelson's shocking discoveries in a world where the infected are no longer the only threat. The inhumanity of survivors may even be more terrifying. The film currently sits at a 93% on Rotten Tomatoes, and some key stars in this include Ralph Fiennes and Jack O'Connell. So first, I think it's important to say that I did get to check out the previous film, 28 years later, last year, and it was one of my most anticipated films for that year. It had Ralph Fiennes in it. I thought the trailer was absolutely fantastic for that film. Just the Boots poem that they used for it was absolutely incredible. So I was super excited going into that film and thought it would have been one of the better films of the year. And I will say, while the film wasn't bad, coming out of it, I did feel a little let down and disappointed of what I did see on screen. So when I heard that this one was coming out this year, The Bone Temple, I was a little bit hesitant. I didn't put it in my most anticipated films because I just didn't know if it was going to fall at the same level as the last one. And I also saw that it was coming out in January, which we know January horror films are not always the best. But I will say right off the gate that I think 28 years later, The Bone Temple is the best, or the best since the original, when it comes to the 28 years later franchise. I would have to go back and watch the original film, but after I saw the film, I've only seen it once and I've had some time to reflect on it. I think the performances, the direction that this film takes compared to the other films, I truly believe that 20 years later, The Bone Temple of this franchise, I would consider to be my personal favorite out of the four films we have. So one of the main reasons I believe that this is the best film, it's because of Ralph Fiennes' performance. Obviously, we saw Ralph Fiennes' character, the Doctor, in the previous film, but he had more of a side character role. But in The Bone Temple, he is much more of a central figure. He is front and center, and I believe you could really consider him a co-lead or the lead of this film, and I just found his character very intriguing. Obviously, Ralph Fiennes is one of the greatest actors of all time, in my opinion. He's my favorite actor, and I just believe he gives a solid performance in everything that he does, and he does the same here as well. His viewpoint is a lot different than the antagonist that we see in this film. What I think makes the film so dynamic is Jack O'Connell's villain to Ralph Fiennes' Dr. Kelson. There's kind of an opposing, different worldview on how they're looking out on everything that's taking place. And I just find Ralph Fiennes' character so intriguing. He's almost in this film trying to work and build connection with these zombies and working to hopefully find some sort of cure for them. And I just found that so refreshing compared to what we've seen in the past, where it's more so just trying to kill the zombies, trying to survive, which makes a lot of sense. But here, his character takes a different twist, and I was just so intrigued and fascinated by him, even in the quieter moments. This film is a lot more quieter. There's not as much over-the-top action. There's definitely some horrific scenes in here, but there are more subtle, quiet moments that really feed into the narrative that I found very enjoyable. I also believe Jack O'Connell as the antagonist here is a complete standout. I absolutely loved him in Sinners that came out last year. He was a great villain there, great vampire. And here, he's also an antagonist and he's more of a Satanist. So he has definitely a different perspective or outlook on the things that have happened. You know, you have Ralph Fiennes' character who's an atheist and this guy who's a Satanist, and just their viewpoint and how they navigate the current world that they find themselves in was really fascinating to see play out. But Jack O'Connell here is terrifying. And I think he's just an up-and-coming star. I haven't seen him much outside of this film and Sinners, but I'm excited to see where his career goes. But he was also a very good antagonist here and was another highlight and standout for The Bone Temple. Like with most of the 28 years later films, or, 28 Days, all those movies in this franchise, I really appreciate that the visuals and the direction and the camera work we get is always striking. There's always something very striking and on edge about it, but here, I like more of the angle that they took. It felt a little bit more haunting. Just by watching it, there was a sense of that this place was haunted. They kept with that striking, what you expect from a movie in this franchise, but the direction just seemed a little bit different. There was more of an eeriness to it and a hauntedness to it that I really appreciated. That again, I feel like elevates it above some of the previous installments that we've had in this franchise. Another thing I love about this film is that, with zombie films and even some of the previous ones in this franchise, sometimes they can prioritize the jump scare. And that's not a bad thing. There is, if I'm not mistaken, a couple minor jump scares in this movie as well. But what I really appreciate about this film is, like I said before, it's haunting, but it really focuses on atmosphere, making it creepy, making it haunting. And by making it that atmosphere that way, it almost leaves the viewer on edge, not knowing what's going to happen next. And it's not just a bunch of jump scares, but just this overall sense of tension and dread that comes about from not only the circumstances that the characters find themselves in, but also the characters themselves. It can be very horrifying, especially when it comes to some of the things that Jack O'Connell and his group do. It can be very, very scary to watch. And with that atmosphere, there's definitely a more grounded tone, which I appreciated. The performances felt real and lived in, authentic, even in the midst of the chaos that's going on. These felt like real people. I definitely appreciate that the film, really felt like it did evolve over 28 years. Like people are actually getting used to being in this type of world and what their philosophy is on navigating this world. I really appreciated that. And overall experience watching this is one that you got to let sit with you. I came out of the film, I enjoyed it, but the more that I've reflected on it and let it digest in my system, the more I'm led to believe that Bone Temple was definitely a pleasant surprise. And again, I got to chew on a little bit more, but might be my favorite of the franchise. So overall, guys, I would give 28 years later, The Bone Temple, an 8.5 out of 10. If you guys saw the film, please let me know what you thought down in the comment section below. As always, if you enjoyed the video, please do give it a like and subscribe. And until next time, thank you for watching The Screen Kings and enjoy your movies. Bye-bye, guys.